Hello, I'm Mike Anderson. During this orientation video, I encourage you to pay very close attention to the information you are being presented. As you enter the community supervision process and through your successful completion of supervision, our agency is here to help inspire, guide, and assist you towards successfully completing your term of supervision. This orientation video will describe how you and your officer will work together to ensure that you reach your goals. Through the monitoring of your conditions of supervision, the Department of Corrections is committed to assisting you in successfully completing your supervision. We hope that you are as committed as we are, and that you are ready to do the work it takes to accomplish this goal. You will be able to successfully complete your supervision by cooperating with your probation officer, communicating openly, and asking for help when needed. When you comply with the conditions of your supervision and are making positive choices in your life, you are setting the groundwork for future success. We are here to help you succeed, not just on supervision, but beyond. Our hope is for you to be able to lead a productive life and that you will develop the necessary tools for continued success. It is extremely important that you receive this information in a language that is clear to you. This video is also available in Spanish. Simply ask the front desk to view that version.
Most probation offices are open Monday through Friday from 8 a.m. to 5 p.m. unless otherwise posted. Cell phones, backpacks, large purses, and packages are not allowed in the probation office. Remember, all items are subject to search by any officer. This is for both your safety and that of everyone in the probation office. Please make sure you turn off your cell phone when you arrive to any probation office. We also recommend that children not be brought into the office during your visit, as this will enable you and your probation officer to discuss your case without distraction. You have been placed on some form of community supervision with the Department of Corrections for a period of time ordered by the sentencing authority. If this is your first time on probation with the department, you will be assigned a Department of Corrections number, also known as a DC number. This is a 6-digit number used to track all information linked to you and your case. We suggest that you memorize your DC number or write it down so that it will be accessible when reporting into the office or making payments. A probation and parole specialist will guide you through the orientation process, which will include taking your photo, a fingerprint, and having you fill out intake documents. Please fill these documents out completely and legibly, as this information will be helpful to your officer. You will then be assigned and meet your probation officer to review your orders of supervision. Your officer will provide encouragement and support throughout your term of supervision. It is very important that you are honest and upfront with your officer when discussing your strengths, needs, and weaknesses. There are several programs offered through the department, court-ordered or not, to assist you in the success of your probation and beyond.
I'm going to discuss the role of probation officers and how they will help assist you in hopefully completing a successful term of supervision. Your probation officer will review the order of supervision with you and ensure that you understand each condition of supervision. Together, you and your probation officer will identify resources that will assist you in completing your probation. Your probation officer will continue to encourage you each month and give you positive feedback and guidance. They will conduct residence and employment verifications, follow up with your treatment provider, and verify any community service hours you may have completed. If there is a violation of your conditions, your officer will address this with the sentencing authority immediately. With that in mind, let's talk about your standard conditions of supervision.
Standard Condition 1 states, you will report to your probation officer as directed. As a condition of supervision, you are required to report to your probation officer as instructed. Typically, this is once a month. In some instances, your officer may instruct you to report more than once a month. Reporting requirements may vary depending on the conditions imposed by the sentencing authority. When scheduling your office appointments, communicate with your officer in order to ensure that your appointment is on a day when you are available, and therefore you should have no issues reporting as instructed.
Upon arrival to the probation office, you must sign in on the offender sign-in log. After signing in, obtain a monthly supervision report, available in the lobby, and fill it out if you have not already done so. This report will be required on a monthly basis and is probably one of the most important documents that you will submit to your probation officer. That is why this document needs to be complete and accurate. Your probation officer will always appreciate this document being neat and legible. The front page of this report will start with information such as your name and DC number. This is why knowing your DC number is imperative. You will be required to report your complete address. This address is where you sleep at night, not your mailing address. Both types of addresses will be required on the report. Please include any building or apartment numbers or even a lot number. Some of you will need to provide a gate code number if required for entrance. You will be required to report all phone numbers and email addresses on the monthly report. The same level of detail will be required for the employment section. There will be many questions asked in reference to where you are working, including how much you earn, job duties, title, and when you are actually on the job. If you are attending school, whether it be in addition to or in lieu of employment, the education section shall be completed in its entirety. You will also be required to provide proof that you are attending school. We will encourage you to attend school and encourage you to complete your education. The back page of this document is for you to inform us of your progress with the required special conditions. If you have performed community service hours, paid on your monetary obligations, or if you have had contact with law enforcement, please indicate on the report. The last section of this form is about you and your goals. We encourage you to think about your goals. Do you want to get a GED, go to college, or maybe obtain a better paying job or better housing? We cannot help you unless we know. Your probation officer is working for an agency that has a wealth of information and contacts. Take the time to make some real goals and let us see if we can better assist you. You will finally get to the end of this report and will sign it, which means that everything you wrote is the truth. Again, this is a very important document that your probation officer will rely on, so do fill it out completely and accurately. Throughout the month, if you have any questions, call your officer. Remember, your officer is a valuable resource and support system who is there to assist you throughout your period of supervision.
As you will see, conditions 2 and 10 are both conditions that require you to pay monetary obligations that the sentencing authority has imposed in your case. With proper documentation, you may be eligible for an exemption or waiver from paying the cost of supervision for any months you are receiving SSI or SSD, attending school full-time, or insufficiency of income. Your officer will review all court-ordered monetary obligations, including costs of supervision, court costs, fines, restitution if applicable, drug testing fees, and provide a payment plan. The Department of Corrections has tried to make it easy for you to make your payment by having 5 ways in which you can pay your monetary obligations. Payment options can be located from the DC Public website at www.dc.state.fl.us. Then select the Community Corrections tab. Option 1 is the JPay mobile app. Please note, you will have to set up your account on the website prior to using the app. Option 2 is calling the toll-free number at 1-800-574-5729. Available 24 hours a day with your credit card or debit card. Option 3 is going in person with cash to any MoneyGram location. With this option, you will need to use the receive code 5385, your DC number, and your last name is the account number. Option 4, you can mail your payment using a money order made payable to JPay and mail it with a deposit slip to JPay, P.O. Box 260130, Hollywood, Florida 33026. And finally, option 5, you can make a payment online at www.jpay.com. Please note that certain payment options have a convenience fee that is set by JPay.
Standard condition number 3 states, remain in a specified place. You will not change your residence, employment, or leave the county of your residence without first procuring the consent of your officer. You will need to be honest with your officer and provide the actual address to where you live, sleep, and have your possessions. Please be sure to notify your officer of any animals that reside at the address with you. Maintaining a stable residence is an important component of your probation. Therefore, if you want to move, you must report your intentions of moving to your officer before you relocate to another location. Your officer will discuss your plans with you prior to approving any change in residence and encourage you to maintain a stable residence. In the event you need to move without prior notice, do not wait until your next office visit. You must report this information to your officer immediately or the next business day. Ultimately, if your officer determines that you do not reside at the address you have provided or that you have moved without permission, your officer will be required to notify the sentencing authority for non-compliance with this condition. Therefore, it is important that you keep your officer updated as to your living arrangements at all times while on probation. You will also be required to immediately report any changes in your employment. However, the employment requirements will be discussed in depth in a later segment. The last component of this condition is regarding travel restrictions. While you are on supervision, you may not leave your county of residence without expressed permission from your officer. This includes crossing the county line at any time for day trips, employment, vacations, and moves. Please make note that while your officer can approve most travel requests, any travel outside the United States will require sentencing authority approval. Therefore, you will need to communicate with your officer regarding all travel plans to avoid any complications. If you would like to move to another county or state, the plan must be discussed with your officer and investigated prior to a decision being made. If the plan is approved, your officer will initiate a transfer of supervision. All out-of-state transfers will require acceptance by the receiving state and may take time to approve. This means you may have to remain in Florida until accepted by the receiving state. Always remember that your plan must be verified and approved before you'll be allowed to leave.
Standard condition number 4 states, you will not possess, carry, or own any firearm. You will not possess, carry, or own any weapon without first procuring the consent of your officer. This includes purchase, receiving, or transfer of firearms, ammo, electronic weapons, and explosives. This applies to everyone on supervision regardless of whether you were adjudicated guilty or if your adjudication of guilt was withheld. If you currently own or possess any firearms or weapons, it is important to report this to your officer immediately. Your officer will discuss what arrangements you can make. If you have a concealed weapons permit or license, you must surrender these to your officer. Standard condition number 5 states, you will live without violating the law. A conviction in a court of law shall not be necessary for a violation of your probation or community control. All contact with law enforcement should be reported immediately to your probation officer. Do not wait until your next report period to inform your officer of law enforcement contact. The key is to always communicate with your officer. Your officer is required to inform the sentencing authority of all new law violations, which include misdemeanors and felonies, as well as criminal traffic citations. You do not have to be convicted of a new charge in order for it to be considered a violation of your supervision. So even if a new charge is dismissed, it must be reported to the sentencing authority as a probation violation. All other violations of supervision are considered technical violations, which will also be reported to the sentencing authority in one of several methods: technical violation report, a technical violation notification letter, or through the alternative sanctioning program where deemed appropriate.
Remember, the outcome of a positive drug test depends largely on your actions. This includes your willingness to admit that you have a substance abuse problem or that you have used illegal substances, as well as your willingness to receive help. Be honest and upfront with your officer as to when and why you use drugs. Any statement you make will be included in the report provided to the sentencing authority. Make the right choices and ask for help if you need a referral for a sponsor, support groups, or substance abuse treatment.
Condition number 7 states, you will not use intoxicants to excess or possess any drugs or narcotics unless prescribed by a physician. nor will you visit places where intoxicants, drugs, or other dangerous substances are unlawfully sold, dispensed, or used. While you are on supervision, you will not be allowed to drink to the point of legal intoxication. If you are under the age of 21 or have a no alcohol special condition, you will not be allowed to possess or consume alcohol whatsoever. In addition to the excessive use of alcohol, you may not possess any drugs or narcotics unless they have been prescribed to you by a physician. Common over-the-counter medications are excluded. If you are taking any prescription medication, you must follow your doctor's instructions and take only the prescribed dosage amounts. Make sure you show your officer all prescription medications you are currently taking. Disclosing this information prior to a drug test will avoid any issues and will explain the presence of the drug in your system. Remember, you are only allowed to take prescription medications that are prescribed to you, not someone else. This condition also prohibits you from visiting places where intoxicants, drugs, or other dangerous substances are unlawfully sold, dispensed, or used. Make good choices and avoid being in the wrong place, at the wrong time, with the wrong people. Keep in mind that you will be randomly drug tested throughout your term of supervision to monitor any use. If you have used, the time to inform your officer is before you test positive. If you need help staying alcohol or drug free, you are encouraged to speak with your officer about referrals to support groups, sponsors, or treatment. Remember, your officer is here to assist you.
Standard condition number 8 states, you will work diligently at a lawful occupation, advise your employer of your probation status, and support any dependents to the best of your ability. The Department of Corrections is required by Florida statute to notify your employer of your supervision status. Be honest and open with your employer and speak with them about your probation status prior to your officer calling. You will need to provide your officer with all your current employment information as required on your written monthly report. You will also notify your officer with any changes in job status, for example, if you have been promoted, resigned, terminated, or laid off. If you are self-employed, you will need to provide a copy of your occupational license to your officer and all state and federal tax forms each time you submit them to the IRS. If you are unemployed, you will be expected to look for a job unless you are disabled, retired, a full-time student, or supported by your spouse. You'll be provided with instructions on how to document your job search efforts and may be required to report weekly with the results of your job search. Always be truthful on job applications and in your interviews, especially when asked if you have been convicted of a felony. If you are not sure if you have been convicted, ask your officer. There is an employment specialist available to assist with your job search. They provide classes to teach interviewing techniques, life skills, and how to prepare a resume. They are also in contact with employers in the community who are willing to hire those under supervision. Please feel free to ask your officer for the employment specialist's contact information in your area. There are many resources available to assist you in your job search, so do not get discouraged and keep a positive attitude.
Standard Condition 9 states, you will promptly and truthfully answer all inquiries directed to you by the court or your officer, and allow your officer to visit you in your home, at your employment site, or elsewhere, and you will need to comply with all instructions your officer may give you. As a part of supervision, you must answer all inquiries truthfully. This includes oral and written responses that you provide on your monthly supervision report. Failure to do so may result in negative consequences. Your officer is authorized by law to visit you at your home, employment site, or elsewhere without notice. Visitation without notice is conducted in order to effectively supervise you and monitor the compliance with your conditions. When your officer visits, you are required to allow the officer to enter your residence, and you must show your officer where you sleep, as well as introduce your officer to other occupants at the residence. Your officer is required to make walkthrough visits of your residence. You are required to follow instructions given by an officer, a supervisor, or by the sentencing authority. This includes established deadlines, appointments, referrals made, or other instructions given in order to monitor your conditions imposed. Willfully failing to follow instructions related to the conditions of supervision must be reported to the sentencing authority. Remember, being open and honest with your officer and following instructions, in addition to compliance with your supervision requirements, is the pathway to supervision success.
Standard condition number 11 states, you will submit to random testing as directed by your officer or the professional staff of the treatment center where you are receiving treatment to determine the presence or use of alcohol or controlled substances. As a condition of supervision, you'll be randomly tested for alcohol and drug use. Even if you are not on supervision for a drug offense, you will be subject to testing. An officer will observe the specimen collection and a preliminary test will be conducted in your presence. Please be cooperative with your officer during this process. If you tamper with a specimen, fail to provide a specimen, or test positive, this must be reported to the sentencing authority. A positive test may result in a modification or a revocation of your supervision, as well as the possibility of incarceration. However, in certain circumstances, a positive urinalysis can be resolved through a new process called Alternative Sanctioning Program, commonly known as ASP. ASP is a program in which you and your officer can determine a sanction for the violation without you having to return to court to have it resolved. Speak to your officer about how ASP works and if you qualify for the program. Remember, the outcome of a positive drug test depends largely on your actions. This includes your willingness to admit that you have a substance abuse problem or that you have used illegal substances, as well as your willingness to receive help. Be honest and upfront with your officer as to when and why you use drugs. Any statement you make will be included in the report provided to the sentencing authority. Make the right choices and ask for help if you need a referral for a sponsor, support groups, or substance abuse treatment.
While on probation, the courts may require that you remain compliant with all special conditions. These are conditions that the sentencing authority has imposed that are unique to your case. Examples are treatment, curfew, restitution, and no contact with victim, to name a few. These are conditions that your officer will discuss with you in further detail. Let's take a minute and talk about some of the treatment that the sentencing authority may order. If the sentencing authority orders treatment, you must attend and participate. Treatment could include substance abuse, mental health, thinking for a change, also known as T4C, and anger management. Substance abuse treatment deals with the use or abuse of drugs, prescription or illegal, and alcohol. Mental health treatment deals with psychological issues that you may have. T4C is a cognitive behavioral intervention used to increase positive thinking. Anger management teaches you better ways to deal with anger and a negative attitude. The cost of these programs may be a concern, but some programs are free, some are on a sliding scale, and others may offer waivers if you qualify. In some areas throughout the state, we also have treatment courts. They include drug court, mental health court, veterans court, and DUI court. These courts have eligibility requirements, but may be available to help you succeed on probation. You do not have to be court-ordered to attend any of the available treatments. Talk to your officer about any concerns. Ask for help if you need help. Be open-minded to suggestions and ideas for change, but most importantly, be accountable for your actions.
There are rewards for complying with the conditions of supervision. Common incentives include independent reporting status, modification of your supervision, possible early termination of supervision, and merit-based activities for those on community control. Let's begin with the independent reporting status. Independent reporting status allows probationers the option of turning in their monthly reports via U.S. mail, email, or fax. You will be required to contact your probation officer once a month via phone in lieu of reporting to the office. Many probationers are eligible for independent reporting status after 90 days of supervision, as long as you have a stable residence, employment, and are current with all monetary obligations. Another incentive may include a modification of supervision, which could possibly remove a curfew, shorten your community control sentence, or even convert court costs to community service hours. Modifications of supervision may also allow you to travel out of the state or country. Another incentive may be an early termination of supervision. The minimum requirements include that all court-ordered conditions have been completed and that all monetary obligations are paid in full. Please note that depending on the sentencing authority of your case, the process for petitioning the court for modification or early termination of supervision may differ. Please discuss with your probation officer the process for requesting a modification or early termination of your supervision.
How can you streamline your office visit? You will need to report as instructed. You should avoid bringing children into the office for their safety. This will also allow you and your probation officer to remain focused on your monthly visit. Schedule sufficient time in your work and personal schedule to allow you and your probation officer to review your monthly supervision report, discuss the progress of your conditions, and answer any questions you may have. Do not come into the probation office during your scheduled office visit with the expectation that your probation officer will see you immediately upon signing in. Even though the probation officer has other probationers scheduled, your officer will do their best to respect your time and see you as close to your scheduled appointment as possible. We recommend that you complete your monthly supervision report prior to arriving each month. You can request to take a blank monthly supervision report with you when you leave, or go online to the website listed on the screen and print the monthly supervision reports yourself. Be sure to bring all necessary documents for your appointment, such as all current paycheck stubs, employment search logs, support group meeting logs, community service logs, or any other completion certificates that you have received since your last office visit. Finally, drink enough fluids to ensure that you are prepared for a possible drug test.
There may be a time while you're on supervision that an emergency situation presents itself. In the event of emergency, during non-office hours, your officer will provide a telephone number to you, which is available when the probation office is closed. Before calling the emergency telephone number, you should consider if the situation is a true emergency or if it can wait until the following business day. Some examples of a true emergency would be reporting a new arrest, a medical emergency, or a family medical emergency that may require you to leave the county or deviate from your community control or curfew schedule. It is important to keep the emergency telephone number readily available to use in case an emergency arises. If you do use the emergency telephone number, be prepared to submit verification and documentation of the emergency to your officer the following business day. Should you encounter a life-threatening situation, always contact your local police, fire, medical, or emergency personnel prior to contacting your probation officer. If you have a complaint, also known as a grievance, or have experienced a concerning action that has occurred during your supervision period, aside from a violation, there are certain steps you will need to follow to ensure your grievance will be properly handled. You should first attempt to resolve the issue by discussing it with your probation officer in a calm and respectful manner. Oftentimes, simply by communicating with your officer, you can resolve your grievance and prevent conflicts from escalating. If you have not been able to resolve the problem by speaking directly to your officer, you may ask to speak to your officer's supervisor. If you are not satisfied with the outcome of your discussion with the supervisor, you may submit a written complaint to the supervisor within 10 days. The formal complaint must be neatly written and must clearly state what the complaint is about. Make sure to include your complete name, DC number, your signature, and the date you signed the grievance. The supervisor will then review the written complaint and provide a written response, providing additional contact information if you wish to pursue further.
It is time to make amends. Don't get discouraged or feel bad about yourself. Take ownership of your past actions and show remorse for the victims who were impacted, including your own family members or loved ones. You may encounter some resistance from potential employers, neighbors, or the public in general due to your charges or supervision status. Maintain a good, positive attitude, and people will see that you are working towards changing and making amends. It will take a positive attitude and initiative to turn your life around. Take advantage of the help you receive from your probation officer and others to guide you in the right direction. Don't let pride get in the way of asking for help. Everyone needs help at some point. Take one step at a time to make self-improvement and set achievable goals with realistic timeframes. Probation officers have access to information and contacts that can assist you with employment, education, treatment, counseling, housing, medical, and finances, just to name a few. Officers cannot help you if you don't tell them what you need or are not willing to follow through with the referrals they give you. Honest and open communication with your probation officer is essential for your success. You can also visit the Community Resource Directory on the department's public website to seek resources for you and your family. Although each probation officer has their own unique personality and management style, they are all committed to treating you fairly, offering you the same opportunities to assist you in complying with the conditions of your supervision. The rest is up to you. Make the right choices and you can succeed.